Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us once again at the Tournament of Champions here, raising support for PANC1, the Pancreatic Cancer Research Foundation based in Canada. Big Hungry Phil and Thibodeau here to bring you the action. But before we get too deep into that, we've got a little VT we'd like you to see.
I've went through all the various treatments that were available for my type of cancer. So none of those worked.
And that's when he came and told us that there was a large tumor on his pancreas.
You have another 8 to 12 weeks of life left.
And I was just overwhelmed, and so was Kevin.
I guess they nicknamed it the silent killer because it's there, but you don't know it's there until usually it's too late.
Really assumed that he was going to be there I don't know, for a long time. Kind of thought he was invincible.
Yeah, so this is the worst type of cancer to have in terms of survival. Only about 6% of patients diagnosed with pancreatic cancer will still be living 5 years later.
These are often people in the prime of their lives. You know, we see people in their late 40s, 50s and 60s is not unusual.
The main reason for this really extremely high mortality rate is late diagnosis.
I think one of the most difficult things when you initially meet the patient and the family is that there are no illusions about pancreatic cancer. You know, everybody knows that it's a very aggressive disease.
It sucks the life out of you, but it still has to be fought.
He's a free spirit. He loves life, and anyone who meets him loves him. And every single day, he makes a memory for us. And we have many memories.
Even though pancreatic cancer is such a terrible disease, and even though the situation today is quite bleak, I think there's absolutely no reason to doubt our ability to eventually reach a point where we can effectively treat and cure patients.
My dad's my hero and my best friend and the most important person to me.
I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better role model and, support system growing up. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without him.
For my kids, the legacy that I'd like them that I'd like to leave is that their dad was a fighter.
Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Of course, getting ready to go into our first game. I'm Big Hungry Phil. With me on the other side of the desk is Thibodeau. Thibodeau, welcome. Hi. Congratulations on making it back into the casting booth. Happy to have you here. How are you doing?
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm excited to see these games. We've got some lower bracket runs, which are always a lot of fun. People trying to make their way back in, claw their way back through the trenches, as it were. So we're going to have an interesting couple games, you and I, before we get into the grand finals later on.
Should be fun. So we're going to be following at least one of these two teams for this game and the following game, because we're going to see them move up into the next round of the lower bracket, and it's Avoided against Nocturnal. And Thibault, I was looking at this roster going, okay, it's NA Avoided, because with the EU Avoided making contenders trials, making contenders proper. There's some tournaments they can compete in, some tournaments they can't compete in. And so they've been running the NA Avoided roster, which is a little bit different, but they're kind of running a hybrid between their NA and EU rosters here today. So I don't really know how this is going to go for Avoided. It depends exactly which iteration of Avoided you get, depending on how well they do.
Sure. I think the thing to look at, given the fact that Avoided is one of those rosters that is utter chaos and changes every
Mhm.
2 hours or whatever,
Yeah.
is just to look at their experience in the bracket so far. They've had some really close games against the bigger names in this tournament so far, and have generally been putting up some really strong performances against these teams. Even if, all these asterisks of like, this is a hybrid roster, this is a roster full of one tricks, this is Clockwork Vendetta 2.0, like, this is still a team that is taking these guys to the brink. So we should be looking at some very interesting games as we look to get started on Legion Tower.
It is. Speaking of Nocturnal, though, a team that's currently sat at a higher seeding and a higher position in the open division bracket ahead of next week's games than Avoided. So there might be an argument here that they are the more consistent team, particularly because they don't have that element of chaos that we kind of expect from the Avoided roster. They're going to be running stuff somewhat approximating the meta. We have seen that the meta can struggle, particularly early on during the season, during the tournament, against a roster like Avoided. So whether or not Nocturnal have the new here to make like the standard approach work, or whether they're going to be running something a little bit wacky they think might be a counter to Avoided, I guess remains to be seen. We're going to be starting here, though, on Lijiang and Control Center, possibly one of the most seesaw-y maps of the entire Overwatch set. A lot can change here over the course of the fight.
It's, as you say, it's a very back and forth sort of map. It's one of those maps that allows you to pull out like specialty comps. May Reaper is a classic here, obviously, but I mean, anything goes here. We see Junkrats and Pharahs and Echoes and all sorts of non-standard picks. Not too much we can judge off of their initial hero picks here on Control. Any of these could change at any time. I'm not even going to bother.
Well, I mean, the Avoided roster, I think that's pretty much
true.
Well, no, okay. The wrinkle in this is I would be very surprised to see Nolan coming out on the Zen.
Agreed.
That's unlikely to happen.
I'm gonna predict a Moira there for sure, but I mean Aquamarine on the Junkrat is no surprise. Mini-Me on the Orisa is no surprise. Good old Tractor Kid 69, otherwise known as Ball on Ball, as we get started, is no surprise. And we are into it. We've got a Junk McCree coming out from Nocturnal. I like that. I like the extra CC and the counter to the Pharah if they predicted that as we get started in this first fight.
Yeah, Aquamarine took a bit of a dink there, but back up to full health now. But there's the first pick. Isn't it contested? Takes a lot of damage and has to back out. But now we'll get focused down by Zemrit. So it's 1-for-1 DPS traded out for DPS here. We'll see the boost going onto Aquamarine instead, who suddenly gets a whole heap more deadly. A couple more of those conch mines landed in the right place. We'll see them round out this team fight, but they're going to give up early control here. Sky was going to go down at the back end, but for now, Nocturnal in charge.
And a quick respawn for Omoira too, a couple fades and you're back in the fight. Yesna went for the quick flank on Pharah, which got the initial kill, but I think Zemrit was a little too dialed in. And of course, in the rock, paper, scissors that is Overwatch, McCree will beat a Pharah every time. Now he's got to play it safe and use his mobility to really make sure he can keep an eye on Zemrit and stay one step ahead.
A lot of focus being put into Yesna here as well, with the D.Va and the McCree in the mix, and Anu just 3-pointing the rockets right into Yesna, taking him out. Nolan down as well here. Avoided are not going to be winning this one out. Nocturnal looking to press the advantage and chase them all the way back to spawn.
The CC and the speed here from Nocturnal are really what's giving them the advantage. Tractor Kid, whose name I must use, though I really just want to call him Ball, is being shut down pretty well by the flashbangs and the traps and the general ability for the team to chase after him and kind of get in his face and keep him from being too disruptive. Nocturnal is moving as a unit here, making great use of their cooldowns to prevent the disruption coming out from Avoided, and so far, they have yet to come up with an answer.
We're going to see Aquamarine with the Riptide ready to go, and who as the equalizing one as well, but it's going to be scoured with the Coalescence specifically to poking down Yesen that starts out this team fight. No chance of the res coming through as Nolan gets focused down too, and we're getting closer and closer here, Dibble, to last fight territory for these guys.
Last fight here, agreed, but Avoided are coming back with 6 ultimates. This is going to be a Q-heavy fight for sure. If you want to just look at more Qs equals win, then Avoided should have this, but at the same time, they're going to have to be smart about how they use these ultimates. That pile driver being interrupted is not a good start.
Nah, it's not great, but Aquamarine's going to find one here. Riptire in over the top, finds nothing but shield, but diverts attention, allowing Yesm to get one. Lane of them now down as well, and that's going to be where they round this out, but it's taken them all the way to 99% here before it comes through, and Nocturnal are going to be coming back in with a war chest of ults of their own.
Absolutely. They're coming back with 6 of their own. They knew immediately, let these guys press all the Qs they want. We're at 99%. We're not even going to sweat it. Now they're coming back. They could get a little more value off of this initial tire or maybe go for a shatter.
Wait, just runs it over! It didn't explode. That was Ball just running that down. Tractor Kid 69. Sorry, my bad. No longer Ball. 1 ult off the table now for Anhu. We still have Minimi Supercharger here. Can help the DPS just recharge some of these others, but it's going to get very quickly run down here. They just move through the shield. They chase Minimi off the point, and using the sound barrier as cover, they wade in and start to do the damage. Some 1-for-1 change. Minimi going to go down, but the DPS line here for Avoided is starting to bring things back around. Opens the space up for Nolan to bring Minimi back in. Flippers now come through onto Nocturnal. They've got to grind this out, and they're going to take this map, but the kills once more, therefore Avoided. The Diva still in the fight. Not going to be able to stagger her out here because they need this flip back in their favor.
And good on Avoided there as well. Not only, whoa, first off, that was a really cool jump from Aquamarine. I've never seen that. But also that fight in general, they did a really good job of just, hey, we need to prep for the long fight here. We need to be conservative with our ults and try and pull out value from them. Good disengages when that supercharger was denied any value, which was a great move by Nocturnal. But Avoided backing out of that and understanding, okay, we got them to use beat off of that. That's a good trade. We need to prep those trades for this long fight. Now this tire will try and get some value.
Yeah, High Noon traded out for the Rip Tire, and they back away from it towards their spawn, and the kill's going to come through anyway. They've got to reset because they can't push in without Nathan back.
The longer this goes, the more it favors Avoided here. Nox is building up that sound barrier, but it is a slow building ultimate. Nolan and Hampe should be able to build and hang on to their ultimates for pretty much the rest of this fight as we approach 80%. This could be winnable for Avoided despite starting 0 to 99 down.
The Skyward looking to start things off here with the Coalescence had to remove the focus away from Yezen in order to deal with the Tractor Kid coming in the back, and Yezen's going to hold on to the barrage for now. Aquamarine back in the fight. They're up to 4 numbers here for the Voided. You're going to see the self-destruct come out, and Yezen desperately searching for anything with that. We'll get flashbang, but trades out. Zemrit's going to go down here as well. It's now 99 to 99 with a heavy numbers advantage here for Avoided, and who's going to go down? There's the D-Mech, and it's a valiant effort there from Nox, mere seconds away from having that ultimate online, but that's going to be a 99-99 flip here for Avoided. Well, no, actually, Linton back in on the Wrecking Ball, but numbers not in his favor. And that's going to be it. The overtime wick's going to tick down, and no chance of the contest there for Zemrit.
I almost want to say I was surprised, but at the end of the day, I think those longer fights really started to favor Avoided. Their initial retake, you know, they had to use all the ults they had, or at least a good number to secure that. But after that, their economy was actually very strong. They always had 1 or 2 ults in reserve, and they made great use of their engagement and disengagement tools to deny value from Nocturnal's ultimates and get value off of theirs, with the exception of that one supercharger from Minimi. But you also trade out the beat for that, and that's a pretty good trade overall. So strong mechanics coming out from Aquamarine and Yezen to secure some kills. Even like Barrage is one of those ults that we joke about never getting any value. Like, you don't even finish the voice line before you die.
It's a really loud suicide button.
Right, yes. It's, hey guys, I'm going to come over here and just blow myself up. But getting 1 or 2 kills with every Barrage is an understated and hugely important value point for them. So if they can maintain that sort of economy and that sort of ability to use their tech and use their sheer mechanical skill to secure kills like this, then this map is done and dusted. Nocturnal.
Yeah, yes, and maybe got out from there. Luckily had the conk blast and got out of trouble, and Nolan's there keeping in the fight as well. Now going to have to deal with the Genji of Anhu up close and personal, but Anhu's going to get chased out here. We have got Zemrit coming in on the Widow, but so far I haven't seen him in the fight. In fact, he is just going to change over to Tracer now.
Widow is one of those fringe picks that can sometimes pull out some amazing moments on this map, but I think it requires a little too much pressure onto the Widow. There's so much focus on them being able to get that kill. I think Tracer is a much more consistent pick. But even so, that opens up Yesna to get some serious value off of Pharah, as we've already seen. I mean, he's pouring damage in, so we have to see if they can counter him and the rest of Avoided as we start this next fight.
Yeah, yes, not that far off having the ultimate as the dive comes through here. PG1 and Leighton already in, but they just left their support line completely unguarded, and Yezem blew them to pieces, coming out of that with most of the barrage ready to go on the hunt. Wanted Zemrit, but Zemrit a little bit too zippy for him.
Yeah, I mean, that at least saves them a little time. Zemrit being able to bounce in and out of the fight and otherwise use his mobility to stay alive a little longer is great. But I think it leaves Anhu a little high and dry when he tries to go in for these dives without a partner, or at least without a partner that can really stay in the fight that long. It ends up meaning that he gets focused down really quick and isn't able to secure as much value as Yezin and Aquamarine, excuse me, have been able to.
Yes, and looking now for someone to stick this barrage. Conk blasted around the side, might have gone a little bit far up the recon test. Waiting now for the defense matrix and the mobility to be out from the tanks to stop him interrupting. We see the minefield coming out first. Conk blast to try and knock a couple of people into that, but it's now on to Yezin to try and equalize here a little bit because we've lost 2 already. With the res coming back onto Minimi, it's looking good for Avoided to hold on here. And this is last fight territory. And Nocturnal have looked way less competitive than in the previous round.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give props to Yezin here, strictly for his sheer mobility. He's getting so much value out of these cooldowns, positioning himself constantly and repositioning the battlefield, opening up for Aquamarine and everything, even as Anhu comes in with his blade.
And who's managed to get 2 with the blade. Aquamarine's still up here and does have the Riptide ready to go, but they're just going to give it over. They know they don't need to rush this. They can take this pretty slowly. Though, I'd call that less than slow as Aquamarine sends the tire in, looking for Nox. Finds Nox, who was only 60% off having that soundbite ready to go, would have been available in the next fight. No res, and Aquamarine just straight into the front lines. Taken out by Pier 1, so this is even now as Minimi throws in and immediately loses the supercharger. We've got a nano-boosted Wrecking Ball on the field. An unusual target, but did allow him to get the last few ticks of ult percentage to secure the minefield. Self-destruct comes out, it's only going to catch Yezin, and now the numbers very heavily favor Avoided here. Minimi's going to go down to Zemrit, and they may have just enough here from Nocturnal to hold on to this for a little bit longer, despite the ult usage from Avoided.
Oh, I mean, just Nox giving his life to give just enough time to prevent the flip while his tanks and Zemrit get back in. I think that was super clutch. I want to give a quiet shout out to PG1, who has just been doing everything he can to keep Yezin and Aquamarine in check as this next fight gets underway.
Zemrit up at 90 degrees right into the sky, trying to beam down Yezin, but can't find it. 2-man advantage now for Avoided. It's going to be on to Lunaton to try and keep this going with the Primal Rage and buy some space for the rest of the team to get back in. But Anhu's going to fall. The D-Mech's going to come through onto PT1, and the barrier is too little, too late to help anybody out. We're going to see Aquamarine traded out for Zemrit here, explosive for explosive, but the res is here. The flip comes through, and now Skyward desperately trying to keep this going, and who will get up into range of Yezin, get the deflect off and shoot the barrage back at Yezin, but they still don't have the numbers on their side, and the Riptire will scare the final members off the point as overtime looking to tick down here. PT1 into the minefield. That's got to be it. It's got to be over and done now.
Quite the map, goodness me. I mean, that was in general just a focus on sheer mechanical skill. I think Aquamarine and Yezin there were just running circles, like using all of their cooldowns so effectively to reposition themselves. A lot of times with Junkrat, something you'll see is that, yeah, he puts down a lot of damage, but he's not super mobile if he wants to be utilizing his concussion mines to deal extra damage. But he was getting value in both of those ways and really maximizing the effectiveness of Junkrat's kit, which makes sense given how much time he puts on the hero. Ultimately, I think it was a valiant effort from Nocturnal there. I mean, there were a lot of good hero plays and clutch saves to deny value off of certain ultimates, but ultimately Avoided were just a little too consistent in what they could pull off with just the stock kit of their heroes.
There's a slightly weird wrinkle to the sort of, particularly with Minimi in the lineup, the slight wrinkle to what Avoided are running here is that it looks a little bit like the comp that the NAOD team Old Man Strength used to run, the Orisa Wrecking Ball, and then sort of projectile mobility heroes around that, because it gives you a really, really strong frontline presence. It gives something for the supports to hide behind. And then you just got all this damage that is so difficult to touch, whether that's the Pharah permanently in the sky or the fact that the Junkrat can just double mine up into the sky and rain death on you in his own way there. So, Avoided this comp, whilst it's kind of weird in the meta we've got, not without provenance in what they're running. And Nocturnal, they did a valiant effort. They actually looked pretty good on Control Center. And it's just that they didn't seem to have the right answers. They seemed to be trying to run a dive into this double projectile comp, and it just wasn't working out for them.
Yeah, on Control Center, they ran something I would consider fairly standard for the map, a Ryan Lucio sort of get in there and brawl composition with a focus on CC and kind of like boots on the ground fighting. But I think that gave too much room for Aquamarine and Yezin to really, stretch their muscles a bit. Getting on to Night Market as well, I mean, there's way more open air there. Farah runs wild. Especially with the mobility that Yezin really has to bounce around and utilize cover around the point. But now getting onto Junkertown, this could be a map where the flexibility of Nocturnal gives them a slight edge. If we can see some Widow on here to counter the Pharah, or maybe a Sombra even to counter the Wrecking Ball, I mean, we could see some interesting wrinkles here that could really trip up Avoided if they're not careful.
I mean, I think it's a little bit unfair to say that Avoided aren't flexible. Nolan, known for playing the Moira, was out on a Mercy in the previous round. And if that's not flexibility, Thibble, frankly, I don't know what is. But this is going to be Nocturnal's map pick here. So obviously it's a limited pool. I believe it was the choice between this or Rialto. So they clearly think they've got something here on this map that's going to work over and above what they were able to make work on Lijiang. And coming out on the defense, this is not the look I was expecting from Avoided.
Yeah. I mean, you're proving yourself right here. They're certainly more flexible than perhaps I gave them credit for. Yes, bask in your glory. Take what all you want. I think the Sombra Torb here is actually very interesting. I like running Sombra a lot in my plat games, and I think that's the kind of strategy Avoided's going for at the end of the day. It's just plat level chaos, plat strats all the way through. So a Sombra and a Torb could really mix things up, especially against a Genji and a Widow, who might struggle to put up some sightlines and stay away from pressure with a turret and an invisible Sombra just wreaking havoc in the backline all the time.
Avoided are going to opt to give up all of this front space close to spawn because they know just how strong the sightlines here are going to be for Widowmaker, and they're going to be holding over by the bridge. Instead, gives them a lot of cover here just to back away from the line at the side of the Widow. And they can take this fight at their own pace. Doesn't really matter they're giving up 40, 50 odd meters here, because most big holds on this map happen at this choke. And Tractor Kid is making life very difficult here for Zemrit, who is being topped up. We'll see the lack of momentum starting to hurt Tractor Kid, who's going to get out. Zemrit's still alive in this. A lot of resource being given to him here, but it means that he can't really focus the front line. And Avoided now just using the inherent chaos of their composition to mean that Zemrit just can't find any space to lay in a shot.
I think showing his point of view there was actually really key to understanding this composition as he goes down and Anhu gets the trade on the Nolan. It's just the fact that he can't focus on one thing long enough to get any work done. There's too many things vying for his attention. And the chaos, like you said, is really proving to be an edge for Avoid.
Oh dear. Well, slow and steady might be the way to win the race here, as Nocturnal, running a slight adaptation on the meta composition, seem to be grinding this one out, despite being very close to a couple of ults here for Avoided.
I think that, so the early kill on Zemrit was not as impactful as the trade onto Nolan. Losing that much healing outright, when your composition is so spread out and really requires that cleave healing to stay effective for as long as possible, was a major blow. And Anhu going down now with these short spawns also isn't necessarily that impactful, though they will try and go for an early recontest, it looks like.
Yeah, looks like it, although they're not giving up the high ground just yet. I think they understand their condition here as well. No point giving up the high ground until they have to. May see a bit of a split here. Nolan away in the background, and I think just from that we can see that the Coalescence is out, looking for a pick. Instead, going to be keeping Tractor Kid up through this.
They said, you want to see how far we'll commit into this fight? Let me show you.
Big EMP is going to come out, hit 4, but there's just nobody there to blind in the follow-up damage. We're going to see the Amplification Matrix come out here, but with them lifted up above it, there's not a lot of value that's going to have. And now the Molten Core out from Aquamarine as well will momentarily stop Nocturnal, but that is going to run out at some point. And then we're going to see Nocturnal push back in. They've got the Supercharger, they've got the Blade here. That's a big combo in this environment, and this could easily win the lead.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting ult there, I would say, from Aquamarine. A bit of a zoning ult, as it were. It definitely prevented the follow-up from the Gravitic Flux overall, but ultimately it didn't get as much value as he probably would have liked as Nocturnal, looked to continue pressing forward on this point. The res, I wouldn't have necessarily gone for that one, but hey.
No, that was just feeding yourself over to ult charge there. But back over to the standard Avoided roster here a little bit.
Yeah, I think they understand that, like, okay, our time for flexing is done. Let's go back to the bread and butter. And in addition, I think third point definitely suits this sort of composition best, utilizing their more advanced knowledge, I suppose, of their mobility cooldowns to really get value and reposition themselves on the high ground. Could suit them more on this point than it has on
Oh, I love it. I love it. What a boop. Straight past the shield. Knocks the McCree off the high ground. The high noon can't connect with anybody. Yesen will go down, but the res is there to bring him out. And Zemrit is honestly on fire on the McCree. Like, that's, I think, the second or third time I've seen him interrupt that power driver and completely deal with Tractor-Kid. So even with what looked to be a very good play there, Avoided just haven't been able to make it work out. And there are still 4 minutes on the clock here for Nocturnal.
Yeah, I mean, that time bank really, it lets you take a couple of these sort of fights, you know, like these longer drawn out. You might not even win. You maybe only make a little bit of progress on the point, though they've still been very steady as I say that. But even if they do get stopped here, they've got all the time in the world.
Yes, and back up, but still not really anywhere close to having the barrage online. A couple of rockets will take the supercharger out of the equation for now, though, but Nolan's going to find himself in the line of fire once again, and Avoided are doing what we would call trickling in here, which is something you typically want to avoid because it means that you're taking a 1v6, followed by a 1v6, followed by a 1v6, and Anhu is looking to win those every time. Trap's going to momentarily inconvenience Anhu, but that is it, and that is, for Junkertown, a staggering time bank for Nocturnal.
That was really, really good. Like you said, in that last point, I think there were a lot of moments where Avoided was like, we can clutch this out, guys. We got this. We got one kill right there. You know, we can maybe extend it to 1 or 2 more. We're close to an ultimate. Let's try and stick together just long enough to get back into that fight quickly rather than giving them any more space or time. But ultimately, that kept backfiring on them. Zemrit kept getting kills and negating value from ultimates and things like that. Anhu, towards the end there, just started wave dashing through everybody like a hyped up Foxmane on Red Bull. Like, oh man, what a fight. What a whole last point there.
It's really unfortunate that Avoided took so much time to swap off like their bread and butter on the defense, and I think that's really messed with their chances on this map.
You say that. Let's see if they come out with what they're showing right now, or if they switch this up. Of course, we are contractually obligated not to speculate on a composition from an attacking team, but this looks interesting. I like the Bastion. Like I said, I of course am an illustrious plat player, and this is something I would see in my games. So I would definitely love to see the Bastion here. I think it could actually do a good bit of work if they just kind of turtle up and say, yeah, come at us, dude. What are you really going to do against this?
Well, you know, this is the map where this was perfected, the pirate ship, because it's around about the time that Orisa was first launched. This map launched around about the same time, and the ability to just have the Bastion turtle up here and be nigh invincible, particularly now that Hampe is over on the Baptiste here as well.
Oh no.
Yesen on the ground, not a look that suits him particularly. Taken down already. Pirate ship still rolling through, but Anhu looks to get in on top of them. And a Genji can really throw a spanner into the works here. We'll see the payload now rounding the corner, and again, this is where the best defenses tend to be. Zemrit's got a nice line into the back, but can't find any meaningful shots through the shield here. And in the meantime, Nolan's able to take Anhu out of the equation. Zemrit going for the rotate there. Might not be able to get much of an angle again because there's this shielding constantly in place here for Avoided. Not used to running the double shield, but making it work for them now.
I mean, it's really triple when you think about it. The Brigida really adds an extra layer of protection, especially to a one-on-one, like protecting the President over here.
What angle?
What an angle. These guys, I mean, they really, their bread and butter isn't necessarily a composition, it's a style. It's really just utilizing angles and tech and little tricks and stuff that most people just don't bother to learn. It's kind of like those clips you see from Moth from the San Francisco Shock, where it's like, it's okay, parkour Brigida isn't real, and then she jumps onto the high ground and kills your entire team. That's kind of the essence of what these guys are going for here. They're playing in ways that most people have never seen, let alone learn to expect. And that is what's getting them their mileage. I mean, they're matching time banks here in terms of their pace as we get through streets.
Possibly even quicker here, but we are going to see some action happening over ahead of the cart. It's kind of peaceful and tranquil on the cart for now, but Avoided. The rest of them have pushed right up here. We've even seen the Molten come out here from Yesen. Yeah, this is interesting. A little bit hard to figure out exactly what the game plan is here from Yesen. Is he looking to try and spawn camp somebody, or is he just trying to play the
here's
get in the back? Not going to
It kind of looked like he was going for that.
Doing a lot to attract attention here, and
Yeah,
attention is a valuable resource.
He is being what Emong would call a spawn camping Samuel, and just attempting to, like you said, take attention away from his front line, which gets sort of working.
And who gets pressured out in the middle of the blade, so can't find too much with that, only able to deal with the Immortality Field. Aquamarine channeling his inner Bastion main, finds one with the configuration tank, but Zemrit with the swap over onto the Ash has found the better of him in this one, but the numbers are still here for Avoided, and this is going to be just as quick, if not quicker, than we saw for Nocturnal.
I think I can safely say that's one of the weirder street phases on Junkertown I've ever seen. It was that, man, plat strats are alive and well in this lobby tonight, and I'm frankly loving it. Look at this. What is this?
Strats, it's top 500 mechanics. Like, between the two, they're making it work.
It's like, hang on, guys. We have to watch our Torb 1v1 the Baptiste before we can keep going. I'm on ball, but I have to watch the Torb try this. I don't understand.
This is going to be Ball here trying to, we've got to keep calling him Ball, the Tractor Kid trying to help shepherd Yesen onto the high ground to find some space to put the turret down, but will get focused down here. 1-for-1 trade. Aquamarine is going to go down, but there is now a Bob on the field for Zemrit, and that kind of equalizes the player count. Minefield coming in already now, and it is going to stop PG1 and Lane from getting back in particularly quickly for the recontest. We'll see the mines start to go down. Yesen has generated the Molten Core, lands it over onto top of PG1 and stuffs up the exit. He has to take a long route around, and the payload is still grinding its way forward. It's not been the quickest of pushes for Avoided, and we're looking to see, at the very least, a pretty even time bank if they can complete on this push.
Which is honestly ridiculously impressive for a map like Junkertown. A map that sometimes isn't even finished at all. Both of these teams really just pulling out the weird strats and making it work.
Marine on the high ground with the Bastion, nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. It's a big killing field beneath Aquamarine. He burns down the shield. He's looking to burn down the Reinhardt to go with it. Down he goes, on to the Diva next. You'll see the hook up onto the high ground there from Anhu with the blade, deals with Aquamarine. Still a lot of people in this fight. Nox with the sound barrier might have just enough here to keep his team alive through this, but Mini-Me is still up and grinding his way through Nocturnal. Ampey in the back, dealing in damage, dealing in healing in equal measures, and it's not quite the same time back, but 2 minutes 16 seconds once we've accounted for all that additional mathematics is a phenomenal time bank, and it's being matched nearly by a 2-minute time bank from Avoided.
Yeah, I mean, a 16-second difference with a time bank this big on Junkertown is frankly unheard of. But it also is a hallmark of a purely chaotic game, and I can think of no better way to describe this match than a purely chaotic game. I think that Bastion got, frankly, way too much value, which, I mean, great for Avoided. They're loving that, but wow, that sleep, I wish would have been quicker. I know there's probably way more to it than just go sleep the Bastion faster, lol. But, like, wow, Aquamarine got so much value off of a pick that people traditionally have been able to counter after the initial rise of pirate ship on Junkertown. I think the torque burn really actually helped quite a bit. You saw Anhu with his blade trying to push onto Hampe in the backline there, and a 1v1 with a turret in the backline is actually a 2v1, and Genjis tend to lose those. So frankly, it's a well-crafted composition coming out from Avoided, despite totally also being a plat strat at the same time. Now we have to see if they'll be able to recreate that lightning in a bottle.
A couple of alterations here from Nocturnal. We've got Zemrit coming in on the Hanzo, Nox on the Zenyatta here, so that Orb of Discord has the potential here to really mess things up for Avoided, but it's got to get through a couple of shields first, and the pirate ship set up, ready to go, and in fact the double pirate ship, we've got the Bastion and the Torb turret riding this time. So double play.
Yeah, he's got a friend. This composition from Nocturnal is all about shield pressure and burst damage. More damage from the Discord, more shield chunking from the Hanzo Storm Arrows, and more burst capability with the Genji and the Sigma as well. So
he went for the reposition up onto the high ground, couldn't quite make it work, and is instead going to go hide behind the stacked cars. trying to make use of that angle he had in the previous round, but every time he pokes his head, the Orb of Discord comes out, and it gets that little bit harder for him to find value. And it's going to be Anhu that gets the first pick of this exchange. Aquamarine still away from back. He's just able to beam Anhu down from an astonishing distance here, but it's still an incredibly traded fight. Aquamarine's going to have to start to close the distance to become that little bit more effective. No headshots available to you whilst you're in that sentry mode configuration. And now that we're down below the final minute, and we've got really not that many ults on board here for Avoided, and they don't realize they're not in this fight. They're not giving this up, despite the fact Nocturnal are just picking them off as they filter back in.
I think really, like, yeah, that long-range kill from Aquamarine was fancy, but he wasn't getting enough value in the backline at that range. And Zemrit 100% outranged him and just started turning around and killing the rest of his team. And even now, it's just melting through shields and health bars alike. I think in general, the damage and the range flexibility from Nocturnal is giving them a major edge. That said, Yezen coming back on the Pharah is a nasty pick, and there's not a 100% answer for him as we get into this last 10 seconds.
Certainly put a lot of pressure into him. Taking him down entirely might be a difficult ask. Immortality, Amplification Matrix out, but someone has to go and touch point. We've got 1 second left, and Avoided, you just tag back on. Configuration tank now out, but Anhu with the blade, the dash reset just coming online, will take Yezen out of it. Nobody currently on the payload. Hampe run down, and it looks like Nocturnal have got the measure of Avoided on Junkertown.
Yeah, I mean, this composition that Avoided was running, you know, we call it the pirate ship. We kind of assume it's a composition that wants to stick together, but they were playing it very spread. The only problem is that when you play it away from all your shields and all your absorbs and all your cleave healing, you lose a lot of value. Your Bastion on his own is nowhere near as valuable as a Bastion with 3 shields in front of them, which is how they ran it the first time. So I don't think their adjustments really came in to get as much value as the adjustments from Nocturnal, you know, who focused on, let's get more burst damage, let's have more ranged flexibility so we can attack from different angles and still maintain our sheer damage output to get through these shields. Otherwise, the Bastion will go uncontested and they'll cap 6. So great adjustments coming out from Nocturnal there, their flexibility doing them wonders. I think another fight or two, and Yezen could have come through with something interesting on the Pharah, but ultimately coming back with 20 seconds is not nearly enough time for even a Pharah like him to get that much value. So we'll have to see if they can hold their defense that way.
Yeah, particularly when Nolan wasn't running the Mercy here, so it's that much slower to generate the barrage that you really need to try and win out these team fights. Coming back in onto what could be their final, in fact, what is their final defense on Junkertown, they're going to be looking a little more like a classic Avoided here, although Tractor Kid now picking up the Sigma, but they're going for a really aggressive early hold here. They're going to be looking for maximum picks, get as much time here on the point A, right outside spawn, as possible. Double hit scan coming out now for Nocturnal, clearly predicting this coming out from Yezen. A lot of pressure being put out by Yezen here. We'll see Nocturnal take control of the car, and Yezen takes a huge beating the second he puts his head above the parapet. Nice little duck through there, but can't find that second rocket onto Anhu to take him down. Again, rotating through to try and deal with him, but Anhu has his measure. Every time he pokes his head out, that is it. He has to poke it right back down again, and we are now 1 player down. 2 players down for Avoided. It's not looking great. They're going to get another go at contesting this, but not if they are staggered out in these last fights.
Yeah, I mean, the forward hold did them wonders, but they need to get out. If they stagger in as they have been on a couple of these other fights that are a little more extended, like that's brutal. Now they're going to be a man down for this last fight, and there's 1 minute and 20 seconds left. I mean, Nocturnal will have another chance even if they immediately lose this fight. And they're closer to ultimates, with maybe one exception.
This is it.
And in general, this positioning favors them so much. You're right, this is it.
Okay, we have got the contest coming through now with a scant 3 meters on the point, and who's getting pressured, can't make use of the amplification matrix just yet. All able to knock him away from that, can't find any value with it. There's a 1-for-1 trade. Hampe finds one, and Tractor Kid runs down Zemit with the ultimate, but it's now Anhu on the high ground with the tactical visor. Can't miss with that one. No picks just yet, but a lot of pressure coming out. Hampe's going to go down here. It's going to be a big riptide from Aquamarine, but it only finds Lignator. And they are still not quite out of this fight just yet. And who's still ducking and diving, keeping himself in this fight for now. But it's going to be Mini-Me on the point with the help of a Mercy Pocket. Almost impossible to deal with. Ball's going to go down here as well, and Yezen gets brought back into the fight. He's 18% of the way away from having this barrage, but There's just too much pressure. There's nobody left. Hampe, Aquamarine both down, and that is going to take us to 1-1 after 2 maps.
Man, oh man. A Soldier 76 with uncontested high ground is probably one of the hypest things we ever see in Overwatch. Some of the greatest moments in history have come from plays like that. Jake on Soldier 76 versus South Korea in 2017 comes to mind because I'm a very old man and I've been here a very long time. In general, I mean, just that POV alone was bliss. I mean, it was a great showing of like what this team can do when they manage their front line and the attention that they could maintain on that front line just to give Anhu the space he needed to clean up.
Well, guys, that's going to put us at a little under halfway through our maps for this match, in the very least. Just before we go, though, if you would like to donate to the cause, and that's going to be split between both Pank One and the prize pool for our contestants today, couldn't be simpler. ! Donate in the chat, and that's going to be a useful activity for you guys to undertake whilst we throw to a quick break. Welcome back, everybody. 2 maps down in the series between Nocturnal and Avoided, and we are at 1 apiece. So another couple of maps at the very least coming your way. And next up in that list is going to be Blizzard World, Avoided's choice of map here, Flip. So what are we likely to see here, do we think, on our hybrid map?
I mean, it certainly allows Avoided to continue running what they've been. Their bread and butter, as you called it, right? The Junkrat Pharah certainly have plenty of room to work with here on Blizzard World. Lots of open sight lines and things like that. I don't know if Zemrit will try for the Widow again. It didn't get much value on Junkertown, and Blizzard World isn't necessarily much better. But this is one of those maps where the compositions can change drastically per stage and per side. So we might see a lot of swaps coming in, maybe holding the Hanzo because that got a lot of value and shield pressure. Probably not the Bastion this time, unfortunately, but I've been wrong before and I'd be happy to be wrong again.
You know, obviously the Bastion was working out for them, at least for a little while on Junkertown. Certainly secured them a pretty quick run through their offense. But, you know, you'd think if they were really focusing on Bastion strats, they'd sub Bastion main in. Bastion main yet to be seen today.
You see, you would think that, but his name is actually a misnomer.
Oh,
He's more of a Reinhardt player. No, I'm kidding. That kind of I kind of agree. I was a little curious as to why they had a Bastion strat plan but didn't bring in Bastion main, or maybe they didn't have that strat plan and they just said, let's just try it. Not to say it didn't work. It got them 3 points on Junkertown, but yeah, it's interesting. We were talking during the break about, oh, maybe Avoided makes some swaps or something. They have the depth to do so, but I don't think we're seeing any here on Blizzard World, which makes me think they think that they can make things work with what they've been running. That Junkertown was just a fluke. It's one of their weaker maps, perhaps. Let's just turn it back around on Blizzard World with what we've got. So I suppose we'll see as we get into Blizzard World.
yeah, I guess we could see this series really go the distance if we're just going to have each team respectively picking their opponent's weakest map as we come through this. If Avoided can manage to hold on this one, and then a Nocturnal get to pick the next one, we might see this go all of the distance there. But looks like we're now ready to go into Blizzard World, and obviously a little time before people are going to come out on this one. But I think at the very least we're going to be looking at Minimeter be coming out on the Orisa as the one part of this that I don't think we've seen change yet so far for Avoided.
It's a bold prediction. We'll have to see what happens when, in about 15 seconds or so. In general, though, I'm very curious to see how the teams start out on this first point. It's one of those ones where you either set up for a really long hold or lose immediately. Oh, and an Echo coming out. Very interesting. I like it. I like Echo as a hero, so that's why I'm like, ooh, But is it the best move? Is it a Pharah counter? Are you relying on Zemret to really do the work against Yesna's Pharah? What do you duplicate here? I don't know. I think they're just hoping that the shield pressure is enough to get them through.
Yeah, I guess they're maybe just looking for pick potential because there's a world where a sufficiently good combo with the TNT and the focusing beam can take out a good whack of the enemy team.
You're right.
TNT.
This is a halt combo comp. I didn't see that, but I mean, halt with rock, halt with dynamite, halt with sticky bombs. That's probably what they're looking for.
Absolutely everything.
Good
Absolutely.
answer. See, that's why they pay you the big bucks, Phil.
Well,
you know what's up.
They've not done that yet, but I'm ever hopeful. Nox with the early pick there, Mini-Me down. Rez is going to come through, but that's a tool they want to be relying on maybe a little bit later in the fight for that clutch potential. Big Hulk combo in over the top, and that's exactly it. Comboed with the Orb of Discord, with the Sticky Mines. Yesen goes down here. Avoided is still in this, though. They're still happy just to sit here and poke and try and grind their way up to some ultimates, but they're just putting themselves in the line of fire of all of this combo potential.
I mean, yeah, the thing is that they have to be really careful of the accretion combos and everything they're already getting hit with. They're hoping that they can build up their ultimates and have a quick re-engage, but that's not necessarily guaranteed if they stagger this out.
Let's see, track the kid off from the back. Just trying to cause trouble for now. Closing in halfway towards the ultimate, but maybe not as quick as they would like here. And who's having to divert attention here to try and deal with a couple of different angles. Hadn't maybe counted into the fact that Hampe was in a position to put the nano on to track the kid and just run Anhu down. Anhu, my friend, you should have been up in the sky where that was not any kind of a risk. Nox is going to throw in the Transcendence, and it's now over, and things suddenly look a lot dicier here for Nocturnal. Aquamarine is about to have that Riptide online, but it's looking like it's not going to be mattering here. Kills coming through for Avoided and doing off the point 8 gap. Still coming through on this, but Avoided with kill after kill after kill, and maybe caught that a little bit slowly on that one, but Avoided do come through, and now 4 minutes 30 seconds in the time bank ready to go.
I mean, it was a good Transcendence from Nox to try and keep them in the fight there, but I think the re-engage that time from Avoided worked a little bit better. They were able to pull out a couple picks there and just make sure that they got the value that they were really looking for. And now we're getting into streets with, that was a pretty decent time bank. And of course I curse it immediately. Sorry, guys.
Well, at least we know how that's, at least we know exactly why that happened the way it happened. Aquamarine now way in the back probably wants to just try and rejoin the team and get a little bit more health in. Can afford just to spam in here a little ways. Doesn't need to be too accurate, just denying a lot of space. Still holding on to the Riptire. Won't need it just yet because they've still guaranteed themselves a 5v6. Look at the ults available for Avoided here, and they haven't needed them.
And the engages coming through for Avoided are just so on point, even though a headshot will often, you know, throw those out of whack. Good immortality field there as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. Very easy to counter Riptire with an immortality field. Difficult to get the timing just right on the Riptire itself. A couple of trades coming in here, but it's going to be the barrage from Yezen that looks to round things out here. Sky was going to go down. And who's still in this fight, though, gets the duplicate, picks up the fire, generates the barrage, fires in the rocket, gets the double, and this is going to be Nocturnal holding on here, but only 4 meters away from the cart. But that was such a costly fight for Avoided. They've now got nothing in the tank for them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely they would like to do that fight over, I think. I want to give quick shout out to Nolan there, who body blocked the barrage for Yesna to keep him alive just long enough. He died right after, but that was a hero play, and I respect that so much.
Ooh.
Quite
big rock into them, Yesna. Of course, it's so difficult to work around that whole combo because there's very little you can do about it. Of course, if you can take the person comboing the rock with the hole out of the equation, that's one less thing to worry about. But Yezen overstays his welcome there in the window and goes down. Luckily, here's Nolan to bring him back into the fight. Zemrit's trying to swap over onto the Tracer now and is causing trouble in the backline. Aquamarine's going to go down here as well. Nathan looking to take the high ground here and just control the space as we see Avoided push back in on their next engage.
Nocturnal have looked their strongest against Avoided's bread and butter composition when they run a composition that focuses on heavy peel. Having a Tracer and McCree to help out your backline when Tractor Kid runs in there has been hugely effective for them. It's been the one thing they've been able to shut down when they really put their minds to it. Because Yezen and Aquamarine are just pulling stuff out of the hat ridiculously. So they really need to focus on that capability going on.
Yeah, Mini-Me just burned into the ground. We'll see the rares come through, and Anahu is doing such a good job, not always securing the kills, but just making life very, very difficult for Avoided on their way through. Unfortunately, overstays his welcome, too close into Tractor Kid, well in melee range, and gets punished for it. There's the boosted rocket into the sleeping Tracer, and this is going to be Avoided, finally covering those final few meters, as we're going to see PG1 just pressured away from the points.
Yeah, I think Avoided heard me there. I think they understand that, okay, they have a lot of peels, so we just need to give more resources to Tractor Kid. Instead of just sending him in by himself, nano him. Let him just stomp people, and that's exactly what he did in that last fight.
You see him retreat just to try and get out of the line of connection there from the Discord, which is at least making life a little bit harder here for Tractor Kid. He can't stay as long in the backline as he would like, and of course it makes him a fairly obvious target to the highly mobile Anhu, who does have this duplicate on board now, has had it for a little while, hasn't really had the opportunity to throw this in. And it's a difficult situation. Who do you pick up here on the duplicate?
I mean, he used Pharah last time to great effect, but I don't know if he would get the same mileage in this phase. Maybe swapping to an Orisa or an Ana could get him a little more value, but we'll see.
Unfortunate for Zemrit there, just stepped outside of the range of the immortality field and gets punished for it. Yes, and now playing up above the parapet, as you predicted, Dibble. Here's the duplicate from Anne, who picks up the fire once again, but so far just finding shield. Will find the combo there with the hold, gets him up to 50%, but getting very close now to being taken out of this and struggling to land those direct rockets that he needs to generate that, and that's going to be it. Duplication over and no one's available, but back in the form of the Echo, we'll see one pick come through. Tractor Kid going to go down. 3 out of the barrage here from Yezu is huge value. Overstays his welcome once more into the line of fire of the boosted shots coming out from the Supercharger and the Orisa. It's the Transcendence, and this is a desperation Transcendence now from from Nocturnal. Still in this fight and looking to stall it out as long as possible. We're hitting the 1 minute mark here for Avoided on their push, and they're going to use Yesin here, Nolan down as well, and they're going to have to back out, and realistically, they've got 1 and a smidge good fights left.
The McCree swap here, I think, was very smart. Anhu knew he wasn't going to build another duplicate after swapping to the Pharah. I won't take credit for that prediction, by the way, because I said like 3 different options and he picked one. That doesn't count as me predicting correctly. But the McCree swap is really smart because in these closer quarters, Flashbang gets a lot more value, and in general, Tractor Kid already is limited in what he can do, and that's even more put in his way.
Well, Well, I think good play here from Nocturnal. They're playing up for now and trying to stop the recontest onto the cart for as long as they can manage. A couple of key ults about to come online here for Avoided. They're going to be looking for something big with this Riptide, but it's all going to be down to whether it can finally be taken out around the Immortality field, and who's going to have to give that one up by some space, but can't find the picks they might like. It's a nano-boosted Wrecking Ball in from above, drops the minefield, and just runs over Anhu, taken out of that one. As the Aquamarine try and wait out the Immortality field, it goes down, as do both supports here into overtime now. One last barrage from Yessen's likely to round this out, and there's a map complete here on Blizzard World.
And overtime completion is still a completion. Avoided are pretty happy with that, I think. Getting value off of both of those DPS ultimates and disengaging really well from Zemret's High Noon to make sure they didn't lose anybody coming into the fight. Another investment into Tractor Kid with the Nano Boost to make sure he could stay alive and disrupt long enough. And Zemret also missed his flashbang as he came down with that pile driver, which could have given him the opening to at least have people peel for him and keep things going a little longer. So things definitely falling in Avoided's favor. But also planned out very well from them in terms of executing on ult combos and things like that. So they take an overtime capture for sure, and now they go to set up their defense as Nocturnal look to make their attack.
And no real changes here from Avoided. It's been working out for them so far, so I don't know why they would. I do think like Nocturnal, despite the fact that they couldn't mount a full defense, they're taking it down into overtime. It is still a pretty great achievement against a team that thrives on the level of chaos that Avoided are used to bringing to these exchanges. But they burned so much time off the clock on point 2 just by continuously finding these Hulk combos, whether that's with the sticky bombs or the accretion or some third option. Like, their execution in that has been just top notch.
And I think they're maintaining the same sort of philosophy here on their attack. Looking at the Ash and the Echo, if that's what they come out with, to combo Accretion, Sticky Bomb, and Dynamite for some crazy value, and keeping the Baptiste to make sure that they can use Immortality Field to avoid some of the more disruptive dives. Of course, you can't avoid that. Oh my goodness. Is that worth it to you?
It's going to be a pretty even respawn there, and at the very least, nobody got ult charge for taking Tractor Kid down, because that's all on him. So he got the ult charge for dealing with Baptiste, so that's maybe a pretty good exchange. Zemret's going to go down, but we get trades here, because Aquamarine gets taken out too, but Rez is coming through from both Nox and Nolan to kind of equalize this. Wrecking Ball back in the fight, but already kind of low, and Hand has to properly adapt his shields just to survive that run through. The kills now, therefore avoided, and what's left of Nocturnal desperately trying to backpedal the way out of this fight.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like a Moth meta fight from back in 2018. It's like, okay, they're down, wait, they're rezzed. Okay, they're down, but he also went down. Super back and forth there, ultimately, but that, I think, favors, weirdly, the defenders in this case, if only because Tractor Kid's so fast on the respawn. That said, Nocturnal didn't have to make a full disengage there. They just backed up to the statue of Turalian, and now they're looking to recontest.
I think you're the first person I've ever cast with that knows who that statue is of. I'm not I'm not a Blizzard kind of game guy myself, so thank you for that little bit of knowledge.
You're welcome.
This guy down and back in again, but Aquamarine with a bit of help there from the combo with the mini deals with PG1 and Nocturnal. They just don't have the numbers to win this one out, and those that are left are being rapidly converted into ult charge.
Ooh, that was... Dang, this guy is really good. I will avoid any stronger words than that. He is very good at the video game. The thing about attacking on this point is that you really have to take advantage of what cover you can and kind of scurry between points to try and get to the actual objective. But when you have Yezen constantly just flying directly over your head and nailing down damage, it's so difficult to maintain your composure and actually get to the point with the resources you need to win the fight. 3 ultimates coming online for Nocturnal, but time is dwindling, and Avoided have 6.
Here's what's going to kick things off. Amplification ults for both teams here. Yesen's able to get around the back and find a lot of value there with the Nano Boost. Going to deal with 2 Bobs on the field, but it's too little too late. Bob kind of doing nothing there.
Yep, I mean, you always ask him to do something, but whether or not he answers you is up to a few more factors than that, I'm afraid. Now they just have the... Yeah, not the most reliable guy, unfortunately. The duplicate could get something, but this Riptire could cost another 30 or 40 seconds just from zoning. This is just a zoning tire. Oh, I hate this, but I love it.
Oh, well, not going to be close to find a pick, but just the threat of the tire sees Nocturnal just hiding back in their hole, waiting for it to run out.
That is mental warfare on a grand scale. I love this.
Zemrit with a big line there onto Yezin, but can't quite connect enough shots to take him out of this one. We're now down below a minute here for Nocturnal. Duplicate's going to come through on Anu, and he picks up the rifle. Gets the run through. One pile driver. Now has the minefield ready to go and gets the pick on Aquamarine. This could be a big opener on this one. Duplicate's going to go down. It's only a one-player advantage for now. See the Valk come through, bring Aquamarine back into the fight, and another amplification matrix out here from Skyward, but nobody's really in range to make use of it. But by getting out of the range of the amplification matrix, they put themselves into the line of fire of Zemrit, and that's now 2 ticks on the board for Nocturnal, and a lot of pressure available. Voided have to start tagging back onto the point to keep this contest going that little bit longer. But there's nobody there, and that's it. They give it up. 2 minutes, 38 seconds left to make it through B for Nocturnal.
Zemrit really did the most there, maintaining the high ground and using his coach gun to get even higher to catch the angle on those people hiding on the stairs behind the stables. I think that was a really smart move from him and really zoned everybody out from trying to recontest. You could tell they were trying to come back, like give up a tick or two and then run back in there. But frankly, the zoning was just way too strong. I use that unironically. He zoned them so effectively.
Nice forward play there, and the pressure from PT1 and Lanerton as well. Bit of a turn back to try and deal with Yezin. Yezin's on his own now, so not a great position for this guy to be in, and Avoided looking a little bit scrappy on the point B defense.
They went for a cheeky flank there with the 2-man, but ultimately the peel from Anhu was a little too strong. And while they did pull out the immortality field, sometimes you don't pull it out as in like you get the advantage on it. Sometimes they just use it to win that fight. So quick respawns at least, but a failed flank, I should say, as the cart continues on through streets.
Coming up on a big bankable tier for Avoided, but they've not got that much time left on point B. And he takes a bit of pressure and has to conk blast away from the Duplicate picks up. And now going toe-to-toe with not just a nano-boosted Farah, but a Mercy-pocketed nano-boosted Farah. Means that he just doesn't have the space to build up the barrage of the Duplicate. Aquamarine gets one with the Riptide, and that's going to be Avoided managing to put the stop to this on streets with just over a minute on the clock for Nocturnal to make this happen.
I will give a rare shout out as far as we've seen this match to Hampe, because that nano boost saved Yesna's life. Anhu on the duplicated Farah actually hit 2 rockets in a row, but you need 3 or 4 with a nano boost on him. So that was frankly a very smart play. They knew that he needed that extra defense going into the 1v1, and it worked out perfectly for them. Now though, Anhu's swapping onto the Soldier. He did a lot of work with that on Junkertown. Let's see if he can recreate it.
Well, not much time left on the clock here. 30 seconds and change. And Yezin can hold on to this for a little while longer and try and get a couple of picks at the back end of the fight and really round out the numbers. But Hampe's being chased down in the room to the right. The run through here from the Wrecking Ball once more. Traffic Kid falling very low. Has to retreat, find a little bit of safety. And Zemrit on the McCree comes alive and takes Yezin out of it. Rez is not going to come through for Nolan. And again, in the final seconds of the point, Nocturnal managed to run it through.
I feel like McCree Soldier is like the quiet comfort pick for Nocturnal here. They're getting so much work done with these heroes. Zemrit on the McCree is scary good, and Anhu is so good at just running around and always finding the best place to be to get value and to deny value from Yesna's angles. Because Yesna is all about securing angles, but Anhu running around is just as capable of that as Yesna is.
As we move into what could be the last set of fights here for Nocturnal. Gonna see them come down to under a minute, yes, yet again, but that's kind of the same situation for Avoided as well. They didn't finish with anything in the time bank either. So still all to play here for. We could see an overtime round for both of these guys on the next run through. High Noon used by Zemrit to not much effect, and the pressure being put down by these projectile DPS for Avoided is huge. It's so hard for Nocturnal to turn the corner. It'll be PG1 floating through, looking for the pick, finds Hampe. We'll see the support coming through from the Mercy. keeps Hanpei alive and in the fight as the Nano Boost comes out, and Yezin is away in the backline, causing trouble once again, finds Skyward here as well, and now we've got 23 seconds left to go on the clock, and Nocturnal are in tatters. Avoided, they've got ultimates, they've got possession of the cart. This is looking like it could well be their round, and it's the psychological warfare one more time from Avoided as the Riptire climbs, ducks, dives, no interest in finding a target, finds one anyway, goes down. Here's the Transcendence out from Nox, but it's on a hiding to nothing as Yenza ducks into the backline with the Conk Blast and finds Zemrit and Anne, who takes them down, even gets Rez back up as well. It's now the tanks alone, isolated on the point for Nocturnal, desperately trying to keep this ticking through and stalled out. But it's going to be hard work here. Laning down, overtime timer ticking down, and there we are. 2-1 for Avoided. We're at match point here, Phil.
That fight was a perfect microcosm of Avoided strategy. I was about to talk about, okay, you know, maybe they walk in, and maybe Nocturnal, walks in and engages with the Transcendence to give themselves a little breathing room and brawls it out. And Avoided said, hey, what if we, I don't know, flank around, nano boost somebody, barrage your backline, just completely ignore, all of the traditional structures of a fight, and just win. And that's exactly what they did. It was, frankly, insane to watch. That was... I don't want to say perfection because there's no such thing, but it was very, very good from Avoided and a perfect utilization of, I think, their individual strengths and their focus on chaos.
It's a point that I kept coming back to back in the days of CV, who you could view as the seed from which Avoided has sprouted. It's very easy to knock these guys as one tricks, or at the very least specialists, if you want to avoid the slightly derogatory term of one tricks. Yes, they've got this mastery of this one hero, but it's more than that, because they've played it so long. It's not just that they know how their kit works, it's they know how it fits in with everything else and how to get every little bit of juice out of those combos as well. So, Avoided are always going to be a team to reckon with, just because of the sheer wealth of experience that's on their side.
Absolutely. And we talked about Nocturnal coming out with this halt focus composition, which is something very akin to what we see, or what we saw, I would say, in the Overwatch League, when halt pulse bombs and halt dynamites were kind of the flavor of the week. We talked about at the beginning of the game how, Nocturnal would be the team that would be more likely to pull out those standard meta strategies. But it's more than just we're playing this because it's meta. You have to be able to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the composition and make the most out of that. And like you said, get as much juice as possible out of what you're trying to accomplish with the composition. So far, Nocturnal has fallen short in a couple key instances, whereas Avoided has really always been able to get the most out of their bread and butter when they switch to it.
Yeah, I think it comes back a little bit to what we were maybe saying on the first defense, and even maybe the second defense on Junkertown for Avoided, where they went for characters that weren't the characters they're kind of famous for playing in most instances, with the exception of Minimi, who was stuck on that Orisa the entire time. And it just didn't work out. It didn't have the same pizzazz. It didn't have the same punching power as when we see that standard in caster air quotes.
Yeah.
Avoided. So, if they're of a mind to maybe not throw this next possibly final map away, you've got to assume they're going to be coming out on the old faithful, right?
I do. I think this is definitely one of those maps where you have to play to your strengths. The geometry of the map is so important, and having an understanding of where to position your hero on that map is key to defending both points and, frankly, attacking both points. So no matter what side you're on, these guys are going to really have to lock it down and play something they can get the most out of to really... I mean, this feels like Madden analysis. They're going to have to play their best to win the game, but ultimately, getting all the juice out, we're going to keep using the juice analogy. Getting all the juice out of their composition is what will give you the edge over the other team that might not be able to do that. That's just playing the composition because it's the composition you're, air quotes, supposed to play.
I don't want to talk down color casters, because I genuinely believe that of color and play-by-play casting, it's the harder role because you've got to know more. But a lot of the time it just kind of comes down to, well, they've just got to play better than the other team to win. Like that's the crux of color casting right there.
As I've been doing a lot of research on what it takes to be a good color caster, and one of the things that they say is just like sometimes it's unavoidable that you're just going to have to say to win you need to score more points and make sure they score fewer points. So that's one of those moments, guys. I'm sorry. To win the game, they're going to have to play better than the other team. And
yeah, you guys thought you were coming in to watch some Overwatch and to support the pancreatic cancer charity, but actually it's a masterclass in color casting as well. And this is a masterclass in niche positioning from Yezen. That was such an acute angle. Didn't find anything with it, but I'm still impressed to see it.
That's Miro on the Winston, just holding on the roof with his claw up, waiting to drop on somebody. Oh, that takes me back.
We'll see Lane Nathan go down early here, and now Tractor Kid being chased a little bit here by Anhu, but not a huge amount of follow-up damage. Going to see them start to press in here with this. I think it's kind of a modified dive. Like it's like a dive with a shield tank in it as well. Ooh, Anhu couldn't find the finisher, but Skyward managed it, and now it's a big advantage for Nocturnal. The res
How did Nox survive?
I have no idea.
I cursed it.
Well, Nolan came back in and got the res. PG1's going to find Minimi here, so the res isn't going to be able to bring their main tank back into it. But now, Avoided have the numbers advantage, at least for now. Again, the respawn for Nocturnal is going to be that much quicker. So if they can keep dragging out this fight without losing any more players, they might be in a position to keep this going. But I think they've identified they don't have the numbers. And Yezen is right up in the face of Skyward, going toe-to-toe with him in a big way. Unfortunately, I have just momentarily lost our feed, so I'm going to have to throw to you, Dibble, whilst that comes back.
Absolutely, I got you. Props to Skyward there for that 1v1, man. We haven't said your name much, but you definitely deserve it. Anhu getting the pick onto Aquamarina as Nolan gets the res here. I like the moves from Yezna, but ultimately, this fight, I'm getting shades of first point Blizzard Roll. It's very back and forth. What a stick from Zemret here. He is running rampant. Skyward getting more kills in the backline. But Tractor Kid with the Nano coming back and making sure, hey guys, you're not going to be able to take this point that easily. The Amplification Matrix comes out from Skyward, just getting tons of value as he gets knocked back out by Yezna. Using the Immortality Field, this guy is insane right now. He's on a tear. We haven't said his name much, but man, he might deserve a couple more shoutouts after this. He is currently being rounded upon by the entire team. He frankly lives way too long. And now it looks like this fight is over. What a weirdly contracted back and forth. Less than 2 minutes now on the clock. We've got a couple ultimates coming online for Avoided. 4 coming online, it looks like, for them, and 2 or 3 for Nocturnal. Do I have Phil back yet? Can I? Just checking.
It's really hoping for. So, apologies everyone, I'll be with you as soon as I can get this fixed.
Alright, Hampe getting the early kill on Zemret, and Tractor Kid getting value off of the mines here. Way too much zoning really coming out from Avoided. Frankly, it's like, what are you gonna do when you're walking into this much spam? You need to figure that out before you're gonna take that point. Yezna maintaining his air control. The one good thing about this, though, is frankly that the fight was too fast for any ults to be used for Nocturnal. The swap from Zemret onto the Widow, hoping to get an early pick onto Yezna or someone out of position as we get into this next fight. But expect a lot of Qs. This one's going to be very back and forth. The Supercharger coming out from Mini-Me. More zoning, really, as we approach 45 seconds and counting. The Riptire coming out, more psychological warfare, but this one's going for the kill at the same time. It gets one onto PG1, and he is down with Gravitic Faults. Dying in a key moment here as Anhu duplicates onto the Pharah, looking for a quick barrage as he attacks the backline that's hiding in this small pack room. Gets the kill onto Nolan, has the barrage, don't know what he's going to do with it yet. Aquamarine with the kill onto Lanathan. 1 kill from the barrage on Anhu, and he goes back into Echo form. He's attacking Mini-Me, he falls below half health. Some great peel coming out from Nox. He gets the kill onto Hampe. He's looking for Tractor Kid, but he is far too fast and technically has no hitbox right now. He still gets the kill as they get low. Anhu getting the finishing blow on the Mini-Me, and I think this fight is over.
Yeah, very nearly managed to round that one out, and just a small round of applause there from Thibble to keep that going all the way through that. Thank you very much. I should be back with you now. We'll see the clip finally come through, even as Yezen gets that parting blow onto Zemret. He's now trapped out in no man's land, and Well, he's going to go for it anyway, as we see Tractor Kid come back in and offer him support. He's got a lifeline, a way to get out now. Conk blast onto Lane Nathan, but this is it. He just gets chased down. PG1 with the flux here as well. That's actually huge getting that out here.
I don't agree with that one necessarily, but it might allow them for a quicker engage than they otherwise would have had. The Amplification Matrix also coming out, hoping to get some extra value on this Widowmaker.
Yeah, now has a line through, but avoided very cleverly. Just back away. They know they can't really take that. You'll see the minefield come through here as well. Adaptive shields pops as Zemrit gets chased out and up onto the high ground. Now the numbers advantage starting to rack up for Avoided as Lane Nathan gets chased down here. Zemrit pressured heavily by the rockets and by the 2-ton mech piloted by a hamster, falling directly onto his head. Aquamarine with a pick there onto PG1, and that is it. Avoided. They might have lost point A, but they found a way to hold point B just with a little more than one capped, with 2 minutes and less on the clock.
Yeah, somehow in the middle of all of that, Nocturnal are actually able to pull out one tick. And I have no idea how they did it, but I'm very impressed, frankly, because a lot of that fight happened well before the point itself. Now, though, they have 1 minute and 40 seconds, a minefield, and they just used a Valkyrie. I'm not really agreeing with a lot of their ultimate usage here on the second point, because Avoided have five ultimates, and that is more Qs than one. So they are looking to be pretty favored as Yesna goes for the really aggressive angle.
Oh, he wants to go toe-to-toe with Zemrit.
One health.
He's got the Mercy Pocket. Very difficult to get the pick through that, and who catches him out in no man's land? Aquamarine on clear-up duty there, trying to get rid of the minefields from Lane Nathan. Not really in the best position there for Lane Nathan to get picks. And who's going to find Tractor Kid, though? And this is not a fight that is particularly clean or particularly effective for anybody.
No, but ultimately dirty fights like that favor Avoided for plenty of reasons, both, you know, psychologically and in terms of respawns. They're gonna Nocturnal will need to get way more value out of what they're trying to do here if they want a clean capture.
Man, that peel though from Minimi to protect Aquamarine was huge. Like that was, how often do you see an Orisa peel for a Junkrat? Only when you're watching games with Avoided. Aerial dogfight going on, aerial superiority demonstrated there by Yesnazan, who goes down. Rez comes through, amazingly, through the Diva presence there. Nolan pulls that off. Nox also able to bring them back in. 20 seconds left to go on the clock, and who finds the pick on the Nolan, and now has the barrage ready to go. Yesna has all of their own. This may come down to the battle of the barrage here. Who looking for the chase? Catches Yezan on the way up and knocks them out of it. We're now desperately close to overtime, and Anhu looking for somewhere to stick this.
Oh, the sleep. Oh, goodness me.
I've just been informed I'm a second behind, so just to avoid confusion, I'm probably going to have to give this one to you to close out.
Sure. That finishes the fight. I mean, not too much to talk about there. Frankly, Anhu was getting a lot of great value on the Pharah, winning the 1v1s pretty convincingly, but ultimately they were wrapping all the way back past the gates instead of heading towards the point. So 36.1% is where they're going to stop. And now we're looking at a reassembly here as Nocturnal and Avoided both look back to the drawing board to see how they're going to win this map. Taking a quick moment to resync, folks. Please bear with us. And frankly, I also needed some water, because it's an intense game.
Back with you guys. Hopefully that is the last of our technical difficulties. Not quite a full hold there from Avoided. Did he give over a little bit of a tick, but it means we are not going to be seeing another round of Volskaya. So, if Avoided on their offense can get 36.2%, that is it. They've won this match and they're going to move forward in the bracket level. So, still some work to be done, but not as much as there might have been.
Certainly not. I'm certainly glad we're not getting a draw and we're not getting 6 rounds of Volskaya, because at the end of the day, this is 2CP, and I would much rather be at the DMV than play some 2CP. So we now get to see what Nocturnal are going to try out on the defense. Frankly, I like the Widowmaker pick. I'm curious to see. Nope, Yesna. I broke our contract. I tried to talk about something from an attacker, and then he switched. So Yesna right back on the Pharah. This is totally what we expect. Let's see if Zemrit can do that.
Beautiful, huge sightline there, but so nearly the knockout. Great response there with the grapple from Zemrit getting back up into the fight, and sadly for Tractor Kid, overstayed his welcome on that one. Taken out by Skyward. A lot of resources being thrown into Zemret to keep him alive here. Just use the Immortality Field even. Buy some space, though, allows him to have a bit of a free line in to try and deal with Yezin. But the grapple not quite that successful there. Bangs his head on the lamppost and has to reposition.
We've all been there before,
Oh, yeah.
right? Oh, totally.
Taylor's all the time.
I like the increase in resources to Zemret, making sure that Skyward is really keeping an eye on him at all times as Tractor Kid tries again. It's like, hey, no, wait, I'm here. I want to, let's talk, please. Hey, and by talk, I mean you die. So Skyward, I think providing Peel here is really going to make the difference. And man,
run around big way here, but like he doesn't even need the kill. Like he's just tying up resources, and whilst the Widowmaker pick potential is gone, Yezin can just go to town. And this was an incredibly quick cap here for Avoided, given that Nocturnal took all the way into overtime to get this point.
This is chaos. This is the essence of you know, a bad guy's looking at you and you point behind him and go, hey, look, what's that? And he turns around and then you run. Like, that's the essence of that fight right there. It was literally Tractor Kid just being like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh, we capped the point, haha. You're done. Like,
just getting
this is insane.
Can't shoot through the wrecking ball, doesn't have a head hitbox. What can you do, really?
Right. I mean, it's just, he's so unflappable. He's just like there to be annoying, and he's so good at it. And Zemret now is swapping. He used the Infrasight. He knows he's not going to get that much value, and now he's swapping to the McCree. I like this swap a lot.
I've seen him do a lot of work on McCree here, particularly trying to deal with Yezin, but I'm just looking at what Avoided have got to play with here, and even just a couple of picks with the Riptire or with the Barrage could see them take everything they need on this one. The Marine now has that ready to go. Took a bit of flak on the way through. Has the Nano Boost here. This is huge. The pick potential just skyrocketed here, and he's already making that work. Lane Nathan down. Marine looking back around the corner, has the safety now to throw in the tire. It's in over the top. The rest are going to come through, but explosives are plenty here for Avoided. They're looking to really round this out and take this series. Supercharger down. Big point presence now for Avoided. And that is it. What a quick round there on the offense for Avoided. Taking the map, taking the match, and moving on in the bracket.
I mean, pure chaos, but you can't say it wasn't fun, man. Just watching Tractor Kid go insane and just like stand there waving his hands and being crazy. Nolan got a kill there in the middle of that fight. There was a lot going on in the kill feed, but I saw that. That was a headshot. And from a Mercy in the middle of a fight where the healing is really important, that was pretty good. So shout outs there to Nolan. Man, this was wacky. This whole Volskaya especially, this whole match, but Volskaya especially was just the epitome of chaos. Like nothing you would expect to happen happened except the unexpected. You know what I mean?
It's a really nice introduction to the world of casting Avoided in Tier 3. Guys, that is going to be the end of the match, but we do have an interview coming up with one of the players from Avoided, and whilst we get that sorted out, we're going to go through to a quick break. And a reminder, if you want something to do during the break, !donate, throw some money the way of our charity and our players, and we'll see you after the break. welcome back, everybody. I do hope you enjoyed donating during that couple of minutes break. And we've got our interview here ready to go. It's going to be Mini-Me, team captain, and horse main for Avoided. Mini-Me, welcome to the chat. Congratulations.
Hi.
How do you feel after your win?
Pretty good. I think we kind of underestimated them at the start. Like we played against them before in the Nocturnal Cup, and so we had kind of an idea to expect, but we didn't really expect them to do this well. But it's pretty good to come out with the win.
Yeah, they seem pretty good at trying to adapt into some of the things you're running. I'm thinking particularly of Yezen being, I'm not going to say hard counter, but certainly heavily pressured there by swaps onto the Widow and the McCree. How did you come around to dealing with that counter?
So the thing is, Yezen or Yezinta, however you want to call him, and Ball practice on ranked like every single day for like 8 hours.
Wow.
So they have the synergy down on hit scans, so they can dive him and take them out. So that's usually the way how we counter snipers.
Okay, so the counter is just grind out 8 hours a day running Wrecking Ball and Farah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, it was there the whole time. But thinking back, you said coming into this that you underestimated Nocturnal. And does that play into the slightly unusual comp that we saw from you guys on Junkertown, or is that something you're generally trying out?
I'm gonna be completely honest. If we had the chance there, we would have just given up the map. Like after the attack, we were like, "Yeah, can we just give up?" Because Junkertown is just an awful map for us. We're kind of garbage on it. We could make changes, but we can just thought, okay, let's just go for it.
Okay, so it's just as simple as that. That's really not your map.
Yeah, like Yeezen struggles extremely hard on that map. If we like fully tryharded, I think we would have swapped out Yeezen. But yeah, a 3-1 is still fine in the end.
Yeah, it's still it's probably, I feel like I've cast a lot of Avoided, both your EU and NA iterations in the past month, and we've seen it go a lot less cleanly than that. So I think a 3-1 is a pretty good shout on that one.
Yeah.
So Mini-Me, thank you very much for coming and chatting with us today. Before we say goodbye and let you go and celebrate with your team, anything you'd like to say? Any shout outs you want to give?
Shout out to all the EU boys on the team right now, including me, who have to play until like probably 6 a.m. if we win everything. It's gonna be interesting. Yesterday we played. Yeah, yesterday we played until like 5:30, I think, and yeah, it was extremely tiring, but we should be able to power through.
Good luck, Mini-Me. I'm sure you have that in you. Dig deep, find the reserves, and good luck with the rest of your run through the bracket. Everybody else, I believe we're actually fairly close to having both teams ready to go in the lobby. I'm just waiting for confirmation from our producer as to whether we're throwing to a break or just powering straight through. Okay, we're going to throw to a quick break, guys. So once more, again, just in case you didn't catch it the last 2 times, !DONATE donate gives you all the info you need to throw some money at Pank One and our contestants today. Don't go too far because we are, of course, going to be right back.